For a while, it seems all the rage was Helldivers 2, but I'd never really heard of the franchise, so it piqued my interest. But before I could play the sequel, I needed to know what the original game was all about, so I waited and picked up Helldivers on a decent discount, without knowing much about it other than it's a sort of top-down shooter game. Upon first playing the game, you do a little tutorial mission teaching you the basics. The controls feel smooth and responsive. It's like a twin-stick shooter, where you get a lasered reticle showing you where your bullets will go. But you also have to shoot in small bursts, or else the accuracy is bad and the bullets will fly all over the place. It's a nice touch that I appreciate. And then soon, the game introduces, I guess, its most novel mechanic, which is pulling up a menu with left bumper and having to do these button combos to use special perks. This system was jarring at first, but the more I played, I grew to appreciate it, because in the heat of the moment in combat, it can really make things more intense, which is fun. For instance, to revive your co-op partner, you need to press a button combo, or trying to drop a nuke or drop a supply crate for ammo. The game's basic premise is you are in a spaceship home base, and you can view a global overview map of the war against the various alien factions and their planets, and you have to go around these planets eliminating the aliens until you've wiped them all out. Simple enough on paper, you would think, but in reality the execution is the most unintuitive, vague, mysterious bullshit I've ever seen. I'll touch on that soon. The game is fully playable co-op. Joining your friend is easy enough. You can join them from the main menu, or from Steam Friends. Though, the co-op isn't perfect. Only the host gets to see the overview map. The co-op partner only gets a trimmed down menu, where he gets to vote on the missions. It's always disappointing when games do this. It sucks that one person gets the inferior experience. The general gameplay has you picking a mission, and then drop shipping into it anywhere you please, and completing random objectives. It seems like each mission is more or less randomly generated. There's seemingly an infinite amount of them that keep spawning up. None of it has any story or cutscenes, and it's not really a real campaign. It's all a series of random open fields, where you drop into them and complete a handful of copy-pasted objectives. Stuff like disabling machinery, or putting a nuke down to blow up these hives, or using a metal detector to find bombs, to even carrying a briefcase across the map into buildings. And then you have stuff like rescuing survivors. Or there's objectives like simply killing a certain amount of enemies. It's always the same handful of objectives that get swapped around on each mission. After a while, it makes the game feel very repetitive. At the end of every mission, you run to a designated point where you call for extraction. Then you survive for a minute, get on the ship, and leave. The only variation in the scenery is that a biome changes. Like one planet will be the winter planet, the next will be a desert. That's really the only variation in the visuals you get for the whole game. Each planet has its own enemy type, especially the main boss enemy types. Like one planet will have this giant beetle bug enemy that's a huge bullet sponge, and another planet will have this big humanoid guy with a shield. But it's always the same general idea. One big enemy that's very tanky and hard to kill, and then you get swarmed by tons of small little trash mobs, and they're mostly like insect enemies. On paper it may sound boring and repetitive, but actually the gameplay is pretty fun and enjoyable. The general combat, like shooting down dozens of enemies, and the basic arcadey gameplay of dropping onto a map and completing simple objectives and then extracting. It's a good formula. And the twin-stick shooter mechanics and things like unlocking new weapons to play with is interesting and exciting. You start off with this basic machine gun, but start to get other weapons like laser guns and laser shotguns, which don't need ammo unless they overheat, which is hard to do. I stuck with the laser shotgun for the whole game because not having to worry about ammo was comfy. The general gameplay can keep you on the edge of your seat because you can finish most of the objectives, but then you can get wiped out and have to do it all over again. The co-op system is nice, with having to do the aforementioned button combos to revive each other. It's a mechanic that keeps you awake and paying attention. So, for a while we began playing through the game, but we were scratching our head at this global overview map system, not knowing how to actually progress through the game. Each region has a completion bar, so we figured we would just pick regions and do the missions in them to fill this bar up. Missions have difficulties, and the harder the difficulty, the more completion you would achieve, we thought. But no matter what missions we did, this bar would barely move. We would grind the game away doing dozens of missions, and still, after all that, the bar would barely move. It would say stuff like +6 points awarded, and it seemed like nothing in the grand scheme of things, and it didn't feel like we had any actual impact on progressing through the game. After scratching our heads and hammering out more missions, eventually we felt like we were just not making any progress in the game at all, which felt terrible and made the game not fun. Having no sense that anything you're doing is meaningful or impactful is one of the worst feelings a game can give you. It feels like you're wasting your time. In fact, it reminds me of what Gabe Newell was saying.
We go play games to have fun. And so we had to come up with some notion of what fun was. We knew it was an ad hoc definition, and it was the degrees to which the game recognizes and responded to the player's choices and actions, right? You know, in behavioral science, you would say we're explicitly talking about what were reinforcers and what the reinforcement schedules were, right? At that point in time, that was a useful way of making design decisions. The point I would make is, if I go up to a wall and shoot it, to me, it feels like the wall is ignoring me. I'm getting a narcissistic injury when the world is ignoring me. So it is like, to me, I was trying to convey to the user a sense of, yes, you were making choices, yes, you were progressing, which meant the game had to acknowledge that back to you. You have to have this sense of the game acknowledging and responding to the choices and actions and progressions that you've made. Otherwise, it loses any sort of impact.
Finally, I decided to do some research and Google around how to actually progress through this game. And even then, for a while, it wasn't clear what was happening. The game's campaign is so convoluted, gimmicky, and stupid that it was truly baffling. After 15 hours of playing the game, I just got fed up and needed answers. Well, it turns out virtually nothing you do individually matters. You see, Helldivers has this brilliant, innovative gimmick where everything happens in an online, interconnected way. So the only way to progress through the game is not by yourself playing it, but by thousands of other people playing and completing missions also. What this means in effect is you can play the game non-stop for 10 hours a day, for a week, and you can see virtually no progress because people around you haven't played the game enough. The only way to quote-unquote beat the game is to just wait until everyone else in the world completes enough missions to where all the regions are eliminated, and then one day you log in and suddenly you get a "Congratulations, the world has been conquered, the campaign is ended," and then you see the end credits. And then the game rolls back to being at day 0 again, and you do it all over again. Yeah, I really dislike all of that. Maybe it would be fine if it was some optional online mode, but no, there's no single player, there's no way to just play through the game with a buddy. In essence, nothing you do has any real tangible impact. Once we realized that, guess what? We figured there's no point to try to play through the game for hours each day, to try to progress through it. We actually just stopped playing the game entirely for a week, logged back in after a week, and sure enough, the game was beaten. We got the end credits without even playing. This is such a stupid, inane system that it totally ruined the entire game. Helldivers is a great example of how fun gameplay is not enough, when the sense of progression is completely neutered and non-existent. The game actively does not respect your time, and makes your efforts and playtime feel meaningless and pointless. I really hope Helldivers 2 is not like this, but something tells me it is, in which case I don't think I even want to play that. It's such a shame. This game could have been a solid experience, but this stupid gimmicky online campaign system, which I guess ironically was the main selling point of the game, totally butchered any feeling of a coherent, fun playthrough. 5 out of 10.
You